The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Alyeska, Alaska, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 33544. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. We'll get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus. Starting with the front section of your aerial bucket, let's first start with 5 running lights. There are 3 clearance lights located in the very center, 2 on the outer edges forward facing. As we move upward, you'll find 4 emergency warning lights forward facing. Just inside of that location, you'll find 2 master stream devices. And as we move up toward the very top of the image is where you'll find the bracket for your life system. Moving just inside of that location toward the center is where you'll find a forward facing floodlight. Let's take a look from the under section of the bucket area where you'll find 2 at the front rubber bumpers. Then as we move just outward of that location, you'll find 2 downward facing floodlights. Moving just to the very rear of the bucket, you'll find 2 tethered attachment points. And then as we move also to the outer edges is where you'll find 2 access panels. Moving toward the center area, you'll find a downward sprinkler and then also the aerial drain. Let's move around now to the passenger side of the bucket aerial. In the lower portion, you'll find a side-facing floodlight. As we move around to the driver's side, you'll find the lower portion has a side-facing floodlight also. Just to the rear of the bucket, you'll find an amber Whelen strobe light. And as we move all the way around to the very back on the driver's side, you'll find your telescoping camera system, which is controlled at the base and then also remotely. Let's start at the front bumper area where you'll find located in the center your siren, which is recessed, and then also recessed are your 2 air horns on the driver's side. Just on the passenger and driver's side in front of the bumper extension area is where you'll find a side-facing emergency warning light. Let's take a look at the headlight structure now, housing low and high beam headlights. The high beam is the light on the inside, low beam is on the outside. As we move to the corner, you'll find your turn indicator and also a marker light inside that. And then as we move upward, you'll find 2 emergency warning lights forward facing. To gain access into the hood area, directly behind the Pierce logo is the latch for gaining access for your daily checks. As we move around to the side of the vehicle, your door pull also is a combination door lock at the very top section. And on the right, associated with all points of entry for firefighter personnel, you'll find your grab handle. Let's take a look at some other things on the side of the vehicle. First, starting with your auto charge system. When plugged into shore power, this will be activated. This is a 20 amp auto eject plug. Once again, when plugged in, the activation will show at the very top for your battery's condition. Also moving just to the left in the image, you'll find a side-facing camera and then also a emergency warning light. Let's move now to the driver's area where you'll find the step well. This is going to be your engine heater for the engine block. Let's move now back to the rear section of the cab wall of your vehicle. 2 items I'd like to talk a little bit about. First, your telescoping light and then also a firefighting tool. The telescoping lock does have a release nut and then also a lift ability and lock in position. The tool does have a release on it to gain access. The lower portion of that tool does have a cup for housing that tool. Let's move just to the right of this location to the pump panel area where you'll find the black and white audible speaker. Just beneath that, you'll find your intercom control module. It does have an increase or decrease for the volume and also push to talk. As we move just over the pump panel, you'll find your 3 crosslays. They are color-coded and also labeled. Moving just to the rear of that location, you'll find a D handle gains access into the upper portion of this compartment. Because of those lines coming off from the crosslays, we do have an entanglement warning hazard and then also your master gauge here for your foam system pressure gauge. Just to the right, we're going to find your other master gauges, one for your pump intake, and then also to the right, you'll find your pump discharge. Once again, these are the 2 master gauges at the very top section of your pump panel. In between the 2 of those, you'll find your test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure, and they are currently plugged.
Let's move just to the right of this location where you'll find your foam shutoff valve. There is an indicator for open and close. Just beneath that, you'll find your metering valves. Once again, those are clearly color-coded and also labeled. Let's move all the way to the left-hand side of the pump panel where you'll find directly above your metering valve, and then beneath that, you'll also find your discharge valve and also pressure gauge. Moving just to the right of this location, we're going to find at the very top section your gauge for your large diameter passenger side, and then just beneath that the Akron electric valve control. Once again to the right, you'll find a large diameter discharge gauge, and then just beneath that the Akron valve control. Further to the right, you'll find your aerial discharge gauge at the top and electric valve control just beneath that. Also, you'll find your passenger main inlets located at the lower section, and then also you'll find this warning label regarding caution and warning regarding extreme pressure. Be cautious when opening caps, they may be under pressure. As we move to the right in the red module, this is your Husky foam system module. You can see at the very top, this is the on-off for the system activation. Moving further down, this is the foam tank to pump, open and close, green and red indicator. And as we move down, this is the module here for the open and close, and then also a mode button in the very center, which allows you to scroll through the various menu functions. As we move to the very bottom, you'll find your foam valve system flush, closed or open, green and red indicator. As we move to the right, you'll find your manual foam override. And as we move up to the very top section, you'll also find your foam system flush, just to give you a reference point of where that's located. We do have manual override instructions in the lower portion. Let's move further to the right where you'll find two audible alarms. They do have the ability to dampen the sound by moving the outer edge of the bezel. As we move up to the very top, you'll find your hail thermal relief valve. It's an indicator light, and then also a test button. As we move to the pressure throttle governor, in the left corner you'll find a yellow check engine. You'll also find a digital readout for the RPM. As we move to the right, you'll find a red stop engine indicator. Moving down on the module, you'll find the orange menu button, which allows you to scroll through the various menu functions of this device. Located in the center, you'll find diagnostic engine information, oil, water, temperature, and also battery. As we move to the very far right, you'll find the red silence button, allowing you to silence those audible alarms. There are two options, either pressure mode or throttle mode RPM. Those are the two blue buttons on the left-hand side. In the center, you'll find a digital readout and also menu information. Moving to the right, you'll find a green throttle ready indicator, and then just beneath that, you'll find a green preset button, allowing you to preset any pressures or throttle positions. Moving all the way down to the very bottom is where you'll find the large wheel, right to increase, left to decrease, and to move to idle position, push in the very center area. Let's move all the way to the very far right-hand side where you'll find your engine cooler. This is a twist, not a pull. And then let's move back over to the left side. We'll review some of the items here with your pump panel lights. You'll also find that we have an OK to pump switch, a generator on and off switch, driver side scene lights, passenger side scene lights, and also all of your floodlight controls. We do have a red indicated air horn, and then also a additional or spare at the very bottom section if necessary. As we move to the right, we do have your generator operating instructions at the very top section. And then you can see just down to the lower section, you'll find your primer for the fire pump. It does have the ability for auto prime, and then also the ability to move between the two of those, either off or prime in itself. For priming instructions, at least 1,000 RPMs for best practices. As we move down to the very bottom section, you'll find a warning label here regarding fall hazard, and you should not climb on the side of your vehicle. Let's move just down from this location. We'll find once again a pressure hazard warning label. Once again, caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening. Just to the right, you'll find in the red module area, this is your LED indicator regarding your foam level for foam tank B. As we move to the right, you'll find your panel gauge heater. It is automatic. And as we move to the right, you'll find your master flush and also master flush drain. Further to the right, you'll find your pump drain. And then we also have a few placards here, and I'll go over those individually. Let's first start at the very top with your Darley. This is the type of pump that you have. As we move further down, you'll find the minimum operation maintenance schedule for 100, 150, and 200 PSI. On the left, you'll find the associated GPM, and on the right-hand side, you'll find the associated RPM. We do have a governed speed of 2,120 RPMs. In the upper left also houses your job number. There are two 2.5-inch discharges located on the left-hand side of your pump panel, as there is two intakes, one a 2.5-inch foam inlet, and then also a 3-inch foam inlet. We also have a foam warning failure hazard. Do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam for the possibility of foam failure. Let's move just over to the left where you'll find your master drains for the manifold drain. There are two of those. Once again, those are twist, not pull. And at the very bottom, you'll find all your color-coded discharge drains. Let's move over to the right. We'll find this warning label that only trained personnel should operate this piece of equipment only after they received proper training. You'll also find the driver's side female auxiliary inlet. To the left, once again, color-coded discharge drains. On the very far left-hand side at the bottom, you'll find an air inlet. And then as we move to the very top, you'll find a side-facing floodlight, and then also your stabilizer camera. And then just beneath that, you'll find a pan door with a lift and turn latch. Let's go ahead and take a look inside this compartment. This is going to be the location for the main breaker box for your vehicle. You can see on the back of the door, there are labels labeled G1 and then also sub-feed box. You can see the individual breakers 1 through 12 and then also 1 through 4. As we move to the front section of the wall, you'll find your module regarding your generator for the amps. And then also on the very back wall, you'll find breakers 1 through 4. And then on the rear wall or side wall, you'll find 1 through 12. This is going to be a 6.2 kW generator, continuous power supply rating. Let's take a look at the side of the vehicle. I would like to point out this D-handled compartment. You can see there is a warning label here regarding no step. It's because when this compartment is in the open position, it appears from the top as a stepping location, which it is not. Let's go ahead and move just in front of the rear axle where you'll find the storage location for your folding wheel chock. You'll also find the foam drain / fill location, which is a 2.5-inch female with a valve directly behind. As we move to the stabilizer, you're going to find a warning label here regarding crush injury. You'll also find a danger indication label here regarding electrocution hazard because of that aerial device going into the air. As we move inside the compartment, you'll find on the front wall, this is your air compressor. When plugged into shore power, this will be activated. You'll also find the location for your battery charging system. Once again, when plugged into shore power, the outlets will activate those two devices. Let's move down to the area just in front of the rear axle where you'll find your 4.5 US gallon DEF tank. It is the blue cap. As we move just up from this location, you'll also find a single SCBA bottle storage location, and it does have a retaining strap for safety. Let's move just between the two axles where you'll find 4 SCBA locations with retaining straps. The center section does lift up to gain access to the lower portion bottle storage area. As we move to the rear, you'll find your ultra low sulfur diesel. It does have a silver cap. And then as we move around to the rear section, you'll also find a single storage location for your SCBA bottle and also retaining strap. Just over the rear axle, you'll find a tool board. It does have a D handle, difficult to see in this image, but you'll also find a lock or release mechanism on the hinge side. When it is in the open position, it will lock into position. Moving to the next compartment back, this is going to be your control area for your camera system. You can see the camera functions here for presets for 1 through 5. As we move now, you'll find the device which controls those. This is the Sidewinder. Moving to the very rear section, you'll find a camera on-off switch, and then you'll also find a camera up-down. This controls the mast that the camera is located on. Just to the right side of the camera up-down switch, you'll also find an indicator here indicating a red light that the camera mast has been extended. You'll also find an instruction placard located on the very back wall. Your vehicle does have a remote control for the aerial device for ladder extension, retraction, right to left. This is the device regarding operation of that. We're going to remain inside this compartment. You do have a radio controls enabled. This is for, once again, that remote control. And then also at the very top, you can find your shoreline and generator outlet plug at the very top portion. Let's move to the very rear section of your apparatus where you'll find your stabilizer pads located underneath. You'll also find in this compartment a pull-out tray. At the very bottom right is the release mechanism, and then also at the very top section an adjustable shelf. Once again, we have a warning and danger label here regarding crush injury because of those stabilizers. This is the stabilizer camera, which allows you to be inside the cab to see the location of that stabilizer. We do have an inclinometer front to back you want to maintain within the green area. As we move around to the rear section of your vehicle, let's start at the very rear, starting at the very bottom of the vehicle with the outside edge where you'll find your marker or clearance lights. Moving just inside of that location, you'll find the brake, turn, reverse, and also a combination emergency warning light. Moving up from that, you'll find a rear-facing emergency warning light. And at the very top section here, you'll find additional rear scene lights and then also rear work lights. Moving up to the very top, you'll find a 360-degree emergency warning light. And then moving just inside of those warning lights, you'll find two white square scene lights located on the back wall. Also located in the very center, you'll find your camera system for the back section of your vehicle. Let's move from this location. You'll find 3 access doors here. We'll talk a little bit about the contents of those in just a moment. And then I'd also like to point out that you have 2 attachment points or rear tow locations. Moving just inside of that location, you'll find your aerial master. We'll talk a little bit about those when we have a close-up of that image area. Just above the tail light, you'll find a hose bed light switch, allowing you to engage your hose bed lights. Inside of this location, you'll find a danger placard regarding electrocution hazard because of your aerial device. Just to the right, you'll find the chute for your hose. And because of that chute, we have a warning label here regarding entanglement hazard. There is the possibility of entanglement because of that hose coming from a loft. As we move down to a few of these compartments, we'll find first, this is your emergency stop for your aerial device stabilizers. You'll also find an override and then also stabilizer power. There is a green indicator indicating that you have power to this area. To the right, you'll find your diagnostic USB interface. And then as we move down to the very bottom, you'll find the control module for the stabilizer controls. This is going to be a tethered control device. Let's take a look at it. First, starting on the outside edges, you'll find green indicators indicating that your outriggers are fully extended. You'll also find a power for your stabilizers, indicating that you have power to the device, and then also an indicator which would be red, indicating that your stabilizers are not stowed. Just below the Pierce logo, you'll find your stabilizer EPU. This is the emergency power unit. And then just beneath it, you'll find a level assist button, allowing you to auto level your vehicle. Let's move down to the lower section of the rear bumper area where you'll find your tow hooks, and we have a warning label here regarding direct pull only. You'll also find a warning label here regarding pressure hazard. Be cautious when opening caps that may be under pressure. In the very center, you'll find your aerial inlet, and then just to the right of that aerial inlet is where you'll find your aerial inlet gauge or pressure. Moving just down from that location, you'll find a right to left inclinometer indicating the green areas where you should be operating. The outer edge will be yellow and then red. Moving just to the right, you'll find a pan door for the aerial drain. And here's a close-up here of that area. Inside, you'll find the ball valve for your aerial drain. Let's now take a look at some of the other compartments. You'll find a ladder compartment housing an extension ladder. As we move to the very center, you can see behind the roll-up door you have 2 hose storage locations. These do pull outward. Let's take a look at those in the extended position. As we move around to the passenger side, you can see the lower portion of that hose tray does open for ease of loading hose. Let's move from this location around to the passenger side of the vehicle into the step area where you'll find your aerial emergency power switch and also stabilizer power switch. This is a drop-down door. On the bottom of the label, you'll find your rear stabilizer manual control operations and also front stabilizer manual control. We do have a danger here regarding extremely high pressure fluid hazard, and then also a tipping hazard regarding short jacking. Please see your owner's manual for more information. Here's a close-up of the aerial emergency power. The up portion would activate the aerial and the lower portion would activate the stabilizers. Just a general view here of the side of the vehicle. We'll now start on the passenger side, identifying a few of those items. Let's start at the right rear stabilizer, where we identify the camera located at the upper portion. You'll also find a warning label here regarding fall hazard, and that's because of the ladder located just to the left of that warning placard. As we move inside the roll-up compartment at the very top section, you'll find when plugged into shore power or generated power, those outlets will be active. Moving downward, you'll find adjustable trays and also adjustable shelf. The lower section does have a release mechanism. It's on the lower right-hand side. It's the black push lever. And as we move up, you'll find the gray lever allows you to pull the tray in and out. It does lock into the open position. As we look once again to the very top, this is an additional outlets. And then as we look to the very bottom, you'll find your stabilizer pads. Let's move forward of this location to the very top, where you'll find a side-facing floodlight. Let's go ahead and look through most of the compartments here. You'll find in the compartments dry deck material on the floor and shelf area, and then also LED lighting. Some of the compartments do have DuraSurf. It is the slippery or slick surface to gaining access for tools in and out. As we move to the compartment just over the rear axle, you'll find pegboard on the rear wall. You'll also find the same location on the passenger and driver side, SCBA bottle storage. This is for 4 bottle storage locations. You can see that the center section does lift upward for an additional bottle. As we move to the front, you'll find additional SCBA bottle storage. And then as we move now to the midsection of your apparatus, I would like to point out this danger regarding electrocution hazard, and that is because of your aerial device. You'll also find this warning label regarding extremely hot exhaust temperatures, and be cautious where you park your vehicle. An additional warning label here regarding danger and warning crush hazard because of your stabilizers moving inward and outward. And then as we move into the compartment, you'll find a 2 release mechanism for this pull-out tilt downward shelf, and then also at the very bottom a release mechanism on the lower right. This is for the pull-out tray. Let's go ahead and go over the stabilizer area in the next set of images. I'd like to point out you do have a side-facing floodlight located at the very top section. As we move forward of this location, you'll find an additional pan door, and also above that pan door is where you'll find your side-facing camera for your stabilizer for the front right. Behind that pan door is your cord reel. This is a 20 amp electrical cord with a junction box at the end. There is also a push button to reel the reel rewind. We'll talk about that location in just a moment. On the left-hand side, you'll find the cord reel rewind switch, once again for that 20 amp 200 foot cord. As we move forward of this location, just a general view here. This is those lights I wanted to point out. There are 2 sections here in the upper portion, one in the rear and one in the front area. Let's go ahead and now go to the midsection of your apparatus. We'll talk a little bit about the pump panel within this area. Let's first start once again in the upper left-hand corner. This is a pan door with a D handle with also a step warning. Moving to the right, you'll find your 3 locations for your cross lays. Moving also just to the left, you'll find a 2.5 inch discharge. And then as we move across the right, you'll find all of your large diameter discharges with overrides because those are electric valves. Located in the center, you'll find a warning label here regarding pressure hazard because they may be under pressure. You have 3 large diameter pump intakes located on this side in the lower section, and you'll also find the 2 lower section intakes for your foam. We'll go over those in just a moment. As we move to the very bottom section, you'll find all of your color-coded and labeled discharge drains. Just underneath, you'll find a step and then also a pull-out step area. Let's go back and cover some of those items that we just talked about, first starting in the upper portion. This is going to be the number 3, or I should say the 3 inch foam inlet, and then just to the right of it, you'll find the 2.5 inch foam inlet. You'll also find panel access on the right side. This is the number 2 passenger side discharge. Once again, a 2.5 inch with also an override located on the inside because of that being an electronic valve. And I think I have a close-up of that now. Here is the override associated with those valves. As we move to the exterior portion, once again, override in the upper left-hand corner, you can see that it's color-coded with your large diameter passenger side discharge. Across the very bottom, all your color-coded and labeled discharge drains. As we move back to the pump panel on the very side wall is where you'll find all of your folding steps to gain access to go aloft. As we move to the rear wall of the cab, same as the driver's side, you have your telescoping floodlight. This is the light head at the very top section of that pole. Moving now just inside of the aerial, you'll find the fill location for your breathing air. You'll also find on the left-hand side, this is going to be the gauge and also regulator. At the base of the ladder is where you're going to find your aerial device manual controls. You can see there's extend, retract, right and left, and lower and raise. As we move to the pedestal, at the very front section is where you'll find your intercom system speaker. As we also look at the lower section of the pedestal, you'll find some warning labels here regarding electrocution hazard and then also crush injury hazard. On the left-hand side of the pedestal, you'll find a black speaker. Once again, the outer edge of that bezel does allow you to dampen the sound. And then we also have an air outlet here for if you're working at the pedestal, you'll have breathing air accessible. As we move just to the lower section, you'll find all of your overrides. This is going to be for your maintenance team. As we move to the top of the pedestal, the lid in itself has additional information here regarding warning and capacity information. And then also on the lid, you'll find all of your warning and danger label stickers. As we move to the left, this is the Pierce 100-foot stereo aerial platform load chart with a 500-pound wet or 1,000-pound dry, 300 GPM waterway at 35-mile-an-hour wind. You could down in the lower section, waterway dry and waterway charged, and then also monitor nozzle positions and also some of the capabilities. Down the lower section, there isn't information here regarding icing conditions. Please see your owner's manual for more information in this area. Let's go ahead and start in the upper left-hand corner here of the pedestal controls. In the upper left, you'll find your emergency stop. It is a push button. As we move to the right, you'll find your monitor select. Either the left or right monitor is what you'll be controlling. You'll also have a protected switch here for your manual basket leveling disabled. And then you also have all of your DC basket lights, under basket lights, and side basket lights. There is an aerial speed here for slow, normal, and fast. And then as we move to the right for emergency situations, this is your emergency hydraulic power. Moving just to the right, this is going to be your Pierce multiplex system, a tremendous amount of information right at your fingertips. Please see your owner's manual for more information about this device. As we move down in the lower section, you'll find the left and right valve open and close and also indicators, and then also nozzle control for stream fog, right and left, or raise and lower. To the right are your ladder controls for extend, retract, right, left, and lower and raise. The collar needs to be activated by pulling up and then activating right or left by the individual switch or lever itself. Moving to the intercom system, you'll find the black area is the speaker. The lower section module is going to be the volume control and also push to talk. Let's move just to the right of the pedestal where you'll find affixed to the ladder an inclinometer from 0 to -10 degrees and from 0 to 80 degrees. As we move to the right side, you'll find an additional storage location here for your ladder belts. As we move to the ladder itself, you'll find your fly section, midsection, and base. As we move to the very center, you'll find your aerial waterway. Let's go ahead and move from this location to the left-hand side of the ladder, where you'll find on the fly section a storage location here for a roof ladder. Moving to the right, you'll find an additional storage box on the base section. And as we move to the bucket itself, you'll find on the left side in the image your strobe light and also your camera system. Moving to the passenger side rear section of the bucket, you'll also find a storage location, presumably for your breathing air hoses. As we move, just a quick look of the controls. We'll identify a few of those here in just a moment. First, let's start with the multiplexing system. Once again, tremendous amount of information. Please see your owner's manual for more information regarding this system. You'll also find your intercom system. There is no push to talk. It is active. You just have volume control. You'll find your ladder controls for extend, retract, right to left, and lower to raise. Remember, the collar must be lifted before the activation. On the left, you'll find your lights control, nozzle control, and then also the monitor select from right to left, and also the valves for open and close. In the upper right, you'll find your emergency stop, aerial speed, and manual basket leveling. When your generator has been active, you'll also find outlets here. They are 20 amp. As we move just to the right, you're going to find a speaker. Once again, this has the outer edge of that bezel, does allow you to dampen the sound, and then also a breathing air outlet. Once again, an additional 20 amp located on the right-hand side and left-hand side inside the bucket area. You have your axe storage location. As we move to the left, you'll find your placard associated with all of your weights for waterway dry and waterway charged. There is also a breathing air outlet located on the left side of the basket area. As we move just over the front section, you'll find your master stream devices on the left and then also on the right. Let's go ahead and take a look from the basket area toward the rear of the apparatus. Any one of these vertical bars allowing you to gain access through the gate to the actual aerial ladder itself. Let's go under the aerial ladder to the dunnage area where you'll find the fill location for your foam B tank. This is going to be a warning label regarding do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam for the fear of foam failure. You'll also find in the dunnage area your generator fill location for hydraulic oil, and then also your Husky foam system hydraulic oil reservoir. Also within this same vicinity, you'll find the fill location for your aerial system. On the top of the cover is where you'll find the information regarding the oil type, the grade, and also range. As we move inside the cab, I'd like to point out at the lower right ankle of the operator this yellow placard. This has the information regarding the date of manufacture, the 5-digit job number, gross vehicle weight rating, cold tire inflation, the VIN number, all of the different fluid capacities for the components, and also fluid type and fluid capacity amounts. As we look to about the left knee of the operator in the seat, you'll find your tech module. You'll also find your engine, transmission, and ABS diagnostic port. To the right, you'll find your display port. As we move down, you'll find your ABS diagnostic switches, engine diagnostic switches, and then down at the very bottom, you'll find your regen inhibit on the left-hand side, and also a switch for DPF regen on the right-hand side. Let's move to the door panel now, where you'll find affixed at the very bottom the Tower 1 on the reflective background. Moving up from this location, you'll find your window controls for the passenger side and driver side, front and rear. Let's go ahead and move to about the left knee of the operator, where you'll find the red master battery switch. Moving up from this location at the very top on the dash area, you'll find your hazard lights, start switch just beneath that, and also ignition switch below that. Moving just to the right, you'll find a small switch labeled EM, which stands for Emergency Master, allowing you to activate and deactivate all of your emergency lights. To the right, you'll find your headlight switch, and further to the right, you'll find a switch labeled Panel, which allows you to brighten or dim the lights within preview of the driver. Let's move from this location to the right side of the steering column, where you'll find your interaxial differential lock. We do have an indicator light if it has been locked. As we move to the dash on the left, you'll find your transmission oil, DEF level, and water. In the center, you'll find your tachometer and speedometer. Just to the right, you'll find your volts, fuel, front and rear air. Diagnostic information will display above and below the speedometer and tachometer. Let's move from this location just to the right, where you'll find the high idle and the OK to the engage the high idle indicator, which is a green light. As we move overhead of the operator on the left-hand side, you'll find the placard indicating the height of the vehicle, 12 feet 6 inches, length 47 feet 1 inch, and a gross vehicle weight rating of 89,000 pounds. If you make any changes to your vehicle that may affect any of the height, length, or gross vehicle weight rating, please update this placard for your operator. Moving just to the right, you'll find Emergency Master, roof light, front warning, and side warning, lower rear warning, upper rear warning, air horn, and electronic siren. When activating any of these switches, simply push on the center. It will illuminate the outer edge of the switch once it has been activated. To the right, you'll find your front flood, driver's side scene, passenger side scene, deck light, driver's side flood, passenger side flood, rear scene light, and your perimeter lights. Let's move just to the right of this location where you'll find your siren control module and PA speaker system. Moving back down to the dash area, we'll find your command zone. Once again, a tremendous amount of information at your fingertips. See your owner's manual for more information. To the right, you'll find your Allison transmission pad with a digital indicator and also an indicator to pump and drive. As we move further to the right, you'll find your pump control. We'll talk a little bit about those in the next set of images. On the left, you'll find your pull to apply your system parking brake. The image is kind of cutting it off there, and also your Allison transmission pad. Let's take a look at some of the switches in the operator's area. You'll find your aerial master, the aerial master generator PTO, a platform leveling for viewing out of the front windshield, and also generator on and off, foam PTO, stabilizer cameras, and also your load manager. Moving down, we have a few more switches. This is for your engine retarder on and off. You have an auto apply, off-road traction, and also adjustable pedals and mirror heat. Let's go ahead and go back to the pump shift, cover a little bit more about that. First, there are instructions on the shift mechanism itself from road to pump and also from pump to road. The collar requires you to lift the yellow before activating the switch. On the left, you'll find two indicators, green, pump engaged, and OK to pump. You'll need both of those indicators illuminating for pump operations. Mirror control for flat and convex mirror, right and left. You'll also find your climate control in the upper portion of the dash. Let's go ahead and take a quick look overhead. I would like to point out in the very center, this red light indicating do not move your apparatus. You have a compartment or door ajar. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rear section of the apparatus. In the very center, you'll find your daily checks to the rear of the engine for oil and transmission. Let's go back to the door panel itself. I would like to point out a couple items. First, there are some warning labels here on all points of entry for firefighters attached to the door panel. As we look inside, you'll find SCBA bottle storage location here for an air pack. And then also just looking overhead, you'll find push on and off red or white lens lights. Your David Clark headset system. Also located in the center, you'll find a roll-up door housing 3 shelves, adjustable LED lighting inside. Let's move now to the officer's location. Once again, affixed to the door panel, you'll find all of your safety and warning labels. You'll also find a red grab handle for getting access in and out of the cab for firefighter safety. Under the officer seat, you'll find an additional storage location that's ventilated. You'll also find overhead your fan controls, lights, red and white lenses, and also your David Clark headset system. Located in the center, you'll find your vehicle data recording port. As we look also to these red identifiers, placards, this is a spare wiring behind the panel. It's individually numbered so that you can identify it and also the type of termination. As we move to the front section, you'll find a charging location, 12-volt USB style. You'll also find your air horn control and electronic siren control. Those are both push buttons. Let's go ahead and take a look at some exterior images of your new Pierce fire apparatus. In closing, I wanted to say thank you for your time, and also if you have any questions in regards to your apparatus, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Thank you and congratulations.